Maris, and this is my final project for Math 01, Spring 2021 for Bethel University. In this project, we will primarily focus on Apple's and Microsoft quarterly revenue over the past 15 years. We will calculate the monthly growth rate, providing 500 scenarios for the next 5 years, similar to the Monte Carlo simulation, and provide expected growth sales for the next 5 years. With all information provided, we will also compare and contrast both companies based on the data that we have generated. Throughout the decades, Apple and Microsoft has become one of the top innovative tech companies in today's generation. Besides their products being high quality, these tech giants have their own operating systems and design their products uniquely. The reason I decided to choose these companies for my project was because of how curious I have been with these two competitors. There has always been debate in regards to what company does financially better, and this project will focus on doing that. In both illustrations provided, you can see the quarterly revenue for both companies. Based off of this information, Microsoft has had a more stable quarterly revenue throughout the years. In contrast with Apple, it has had an increase in their quarterly revenue, but has also had steep declines throughout the years. However, it has still managed to increase their quarterly revenue, showing high increases. Regardless, both companies' quarterly revenue still continue to increase and still maintain a stable revenue. Let's begin with Microsoft data. For the max, it has been at 47%, which may be translated as being at the highest monthly growth rate yet. For the minimum, it has been at negative 24%, which also translates as the monthly growth rate being at its lowest yet. For the average of the monthly growth rate percentage, it stands at 3%. Standard deviation is at 14%. Just for reference, the lower the number for the standard deviation, the better. In contrast with Apple's information, it has a maximum of 44% and a minimum of negative 57%. For the mean, it has a 1% and standard deviation of 27%. Based off of these results, Microsoft seems to have a better performance. First, their standard deviation is not as high in comparison with Apple's, and for their maximum, Microsoft has a higher maximum and their minimum is not as low as Apple's minimum. Based off of this data, Microsoft seems to have a better monthly growth rate. For this specific part of the project, I entered the dates for the next 5 years and calculated the monthly growth rate using the norm.inv times random number times the mean times the standard deviation. As for the monthly sales price, I multiplied the previous monthly sales price times 1 plus monthly growth rate in which I obtained the monthly sales price. Since I worked using 60 months for predictive value, I was only able to attach here part of the calculations that I made. For the expected growth price for the next 5 years, I was able to calculate the mean, standard deviation, and the fifth percentile using the 500 scenarios that I created. Microsoft seems to have a substantial growth price at mean price starting off in 2021 at $662,000 to $3,230,000 in 2025. Also for the standard deviation in 2021, it starts off at $240,000 and has a drastic change at $3,900,000 in 2025. For the fifth percentile, data looks pretty consistent, as well as starting at $370,000 in 2021 and ending at $309,000 for 2025. For Apple expected growth rate, we can see in the mean that there's an increase for the next 5 years, but nothing substantial in comparison with Microsoft, starting off in 2021 at $1,384,000 and ending at $2,922,000. For the standard deviation, in 2021, it is at $852,000, an increase to $11,322,000 in 2025. Lastly, for the fifth percentile, it starts off at $455,300 and ended at $8,200 in 2025. Something that I noticed from this data is that a lot of the patterns that are found here correlate to the line chart that we reviewed earlier. If you recall, Apple quarterly performance would have high increases and very low decreases in comparison with Microsoft, having a much smoother revenue throughout the years. Some potential reasons for Microsoft having overall better quarterly performance than Apple. Number 1 is affordability. Apple computers can run up to thousands of dollars. In contrast with Microsoft computers, they are more affordable and anyone can have access to them. For instance, small businesses are able to obtain a Microsoft computer if they have a low budget, wanting a computer that performs well yet it is affordable. Number 2 is compatible. Microsoft software is more widely available compared to Apple software. Microsoft software can be found in any computer, including Apple computers. A perfect example in this is Office 350 being offered in Apple computers. In contrast with Apple, it is only exclusively available to its own devices. Number 3 is accessibility. Besides Microsoft being more affordable and compatible, it is also more accessible. Microsoft software can be found almost anywhere you go: schools, government-based agencies, and businesses. Recently, Microsoft has outperformed Apple primarily due to the pandemic. Microsoft Cloud has increased in popularity due to people having to use it now more than ever from their homes for work or school purposes.